Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Chris, this is my shop partner Oots, and today I'm going to be building a really cool sign for my shop. I'm going to be using some old barnwood and some copper. It's going to be a really cool project, so let's get started. I started this project by laying out the template that I made using Microsoft Excel. I just uploaded my logo image into Excel and then stretched it to the size I wanted. You can set Excel to show the individual page breaks, and because I know the dimensions of each sheet of paper, I can stretch it across several sheets and know exactly how wide and long it will be once printed off. Then I just tape the sheets together and cut out the individual pieces so that I can glue them back down but closer together to save waste. I leave the outline intact right now so that I can trace its shape on the 1/2-inch plywood that I'll use as the backer. After I trace the outline, I'll use my circular saw and a jigsaw to cut out the logo shape. I got some pieces of old weathered barnwood at a really cool local shop called Michigan Barnwood and Salvage that's in Mason, Michigan. I wanted to use some old weathered boards to give the sign an old vintage look to match the styling of my logo. But before I can use the wood, I give it a good once over with a wire brush to get rid of most of the loose dirt and paint. Once cleaned up, I secure the boards to the plywood backer using some liquid nails and brads. Then I use my jigsaw to cut the barnwood flush with the backer board. Now that the background of my logo is done, I can work on the graphics and text. I'm going to be cutting these out of plywood and then securing them to the barnwood to give me a really cool 3D raised letter look. Some of the graphics I'm going to glue directly to the plywood and they will get cut out and then painted black. But in order to really make this sign stand out and come to life, I decided to try using some copper for the text. I had some scraps of copper sheet metal that I've been saving from a project I did several years ago that I think will work perfect for this sign. I glue the graphics to the copper first, then I flip the copper over and coat the backside with contact cement. I also coat the matching section of the plywood with contact cement, and following the directions I let both surfaces dry for 20 minutes before adhering them together for a nice permanent bond. Now it's recommended to go over the surface with a J-roller to really ensure a nice bond, but I don't have one of those, but luckily I do have a really heavy caster laying around and I was able to awkwardly accomplish the same task. Next I use my jigsaw to cut out some more manageable sized pieces before I start the long and tedious haul on the bandsaw. While I'm doing this, I want to give a big thanks to Shane at W70 Designs for making this logo for me. I'd been struggling for months to come up with a logo and identity that matched me and my style of work. I had tried several different looks on my own and nothing really felt right. I just couldn't get it done. I really wanted something that was old school and had a really cool classic vintage look that reflected my love of hand tools and handwork. That's when I saw one of Shane's logos that had the exact style that I was looking for, so I contacted him right away. He is definitely a real professional, and the process we went through in creating the design was really cool. He sent me several different unique drafts after we talked. They were all awesome, but I ultimately fell in love with the design that I currently have now. If you're interested in getting a truly professional logo done, make sure you contact Shane over at W70 Designs. There's a link to his website and Instagram page down in the description. So if you like this really cool logo and want to help support this channel, head over to my website where I have some really nice shirts and stickers available with this logo on them. I have a link to that down in the description, as well as links to my Patreon page where you can also go to help support this channel, as well as my Instagram and Facebook page where you can go and see what I'm up to in between videos. And if you aren't already and you like my videos, please think about hitting that subscribe button and the bell icon so that you get notifications when I post any new videos. Once I did all I could do on the bandsaw, I drilled holes in the areas that I could not reach so that I could use a fret saw or a coping saw to remove that waste. I started with a fret saw and it just did not work well cutting the copper, so I switched to a coping saw that had a slightly larger and stronger blade, and that went a little bit better. I oriented the teeth so that the blade would be cutting on the push stroke. I feared that if I was cutting on the pull stroke, the saw might pull the copper back off the plywood and mess it all up. I clamped a wooden hand screw clamp into one of my bench vices, and that worked great at holding the pieces as I sawed away the waste and filed the edges smooth. I used a series of round, curved, and flat files and rasps to smooth all the rough edges left by the bandsaw. Then I'll remove the paper template from all the wood pieces, but I'll leave it on all the copper and then spray paint all the pieces black. I used a really light holding spray adhesive, so it's pretty easy to get the paper off. Once the paint is dry, I can remove the paper from the copper, then I'll just brighten the copper up with some high grit sandpaper and steel wool. Then the awesome moment when it all comes together. I laid all my pieces out and then I glue them in place one by one using Titebond's quick and thick glue. This glue is great in this application because I just need to hold each piece in place for a few seconds and the glue will grip the piece enough so that I can move on to the next piece. And once it fully dries, it creates a really nice strong bond. Going into this, I didn't really know if the copper would look good on this sign or not. I tried my best envisioning this in my head, but I wasn't really sure. But man, I really gotta say I'm super happy with how it turned out. I think the copper and Barnwood really work well with the vintage design of this logo. What do you guys think? I'd love to hear what you think down in the comments section or any advice you have on what I could have done better. Well, everybody, there you go. I hope you liked the project. I think the sign turned out awesome. I'm really excited to put it in my shop. If you haven't already, think about hitting that subscribe button. Make sure you click the like button and tell me what you think down in the comments. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.